My friends, I encourage you strongly to get a copy of my book, The Blossoming of Christianity. You have got to find it in your heart to believe that God did send me to bring you this message, which is to tell you that you must learn to interpret His Word from the viewpoint of science, so you can bring His existence into the reality that we deal with today, which exclude ideals relating to superstition and supernatural. We only deal with ideals relating to the superstition and the supernatural when we carry out a relationship with God, within our relationship with God. So you have got to find it in your heart to believe that God did send me to tell you that you have got to learn to interpret the Scripture from the viewpoint of science, so that you can get the type of information that will allow you to have a meaningful relationship with Him, and carry out the type of work that will aid Him in bringing about the kingdom of heaven on earth. Now, when you interpret the Scripture from the viewpoint of science, you see, we come to the realization that it was not Jesus that was with God from the beginning. It was not Jesus that was as one with God, as the Bible says, the Son and the Father exist as one. And the Scripture goes on to say that the Son is the force that does all the work. This was not Jesus. We saw when you interpret the Scripture from the viewpoint of science that the Father represented positive and negative charges, and the Son represented the force of reason that organized, did all the work, and organizing those positive and negative charges into the appropriate combination to give rise to everything that make up the physical universe. And we saw how those force of reason, by organizing those positive and negative charges into the appropriate combination, gave rise to all the constituents, the organs, the cells, everything that made up the physical flesh of Jesus was brought about by the work performed by the force of reason through the use of positive and negative charges. So see, positive and negative charges serves as God, the Father, and the force of reason serves as the Son of God, envisioning the flesh of Jesus. So see, when the Scripture says the Word was made flesh, this is correct. Because see, the Word represents positive and negative charges, and that Word was made flesh through the work carried out by the force of reason, which brought about the arrangement of those positive and negative charges. We carried out that creative work and arranging those positive and negative charges into all the constituents that made up the flesh of Jesus. So you see, the Word was made flesh, but the type of Word that made the flesh did not also that was a type of word that made the flesh, but the word can also be spoken in a language dealing with ideals. So when the word was made flesh through the work carried out by the force of reason and made the physical body of human beings, then human beings brought in another level, another dimension. And the word can be represented in that dimension also, which is the dimension that deals with ideals. See, words are units that we use to convey ideals to one another. So here the word take on the form of God also. So see, this is something we have got to work out. And you do this when you learn to interpret the Scripture from the viewpoint of science. There's a difference between the word that represented positive and negative charges and the word that represents units that we use to convey ideals. You see, so now Jesus was God because the word as positive and negative charges was made flesh. But when that word made it to the conscious mind of Jesus, which was brought up by the force of reason, there's a reason why Jesus accepted all the ideas that came down from heaven. You know, there's a reason. When Jesus accepted the word that God was the maker of all things, then that converted Jesus into the Son of God. But most importantly, it showed that that was God. See, God recognized that he had done all this. He had made all the organs and everything that made the physical flesh of Jesus. And he recognized that he had now caused the force of reason, through the force of reason, caused Jesus' mind to accept that he was the maker of all things, and I'm making all things. So you see, the flesh became Jesus. the flesh was Jesus, was God, because God made the flesh. And now the conscious mind of Jesus was God because he recognized that God was making all things. See that word? And so Jesus was God. So when he said, was Jesus God? Absolutely. Jesus was God. So we'll talk a little bit more about this. So it's important that you learn to interpret the scripture from the viewpoint of science. And you see, you get meaningful information. We'll talk a little bit more about this. But if you can get that book, The Bronze of Christianity, try to get it because it'll set you on track of learning how to interpret scripture from the viewpoint of science. If you can't get a copy, can't afford one, just inbox me and I will make sure that you get an electronic copy that you can play on your computer.